If you've ever labeled your child as explosive, strong-willed, sensitive, or angry, we have created a course that is here to support you. Our brand new anger course is now available for purchase. It's available right now. You're going to get 35 video lessons between 1 and 4 minutes long that are practical, insightful, useful, and based off of what real parents were asking us for when it comes to angry kids. It's available right now. It's brand new. We cannot wait to support you with this course. Head to the link in the show notes to grab it.
Welcome to Robot Unicorn, hosted by my parents, Jess and Scott. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
What up, Jessica?
What's up?
Ready to talk apologies?
I am.
And specifically forced apologies?
Are you ready to say sorry to me?
Absolutely not. It can't be forced. It's impossible.
Fascinating.
We'll get into that.
We'll get there.
So for this episode, I did do a bunch of research, but unlike the episode before, I feel like you know a lot more about this one. So I'm just going to take our traditional approach to this episode.
Okay.
I
You
feel
can't
like
surprise me. Well,
it's going to be less likely that I surprise you. Maybe.
I think honestly what I was seeking for this episode is just a healthy discussion on it.
Okay.
I just want to open up a conversation that I think is important for parents and pretty much anyone to just consider. Because I was talking to this person this morning. This is a teacher, teaches JKSK. And this person was saying that when they have an issue in the class, let's say one peer hits another peer in the face, then she'll sit down with them, they'll have a circle time, and she'll say to the person who did the hurting, how can you make this right? And typically the person who did the hurting will be like, I can say I'm sorry. So then they'll say to the person who was hurt, I'm sorry. And what maybe she would traditionally do is like, okay, now what do you say? Right? And then the other kid goes, I forgive you, and off they go. But she said that she's been noticing this feeling inside of herself that she's not loving that approach because she's feeling like, what do I really want to teach these kids by forcing them to maybe apologize, but mostly accept the apology and just feel like I can just move forward now, right? So it's almost less about forcing the apology, which we can talk about, but more about forcing forgiveness.
Do you think that's the bigger struggle that parents have, though, of the two?
I think we need to kind of talk about both.
Yeah, sure.
Because what I notice both in the parents. So I think forcing an apology, like what does that really do, right? Like if someone doesn't actually feel sorry, but they're saying the word sorry, not just for kids, but for anyone, it's just kind of a meaningless word, right? But also forcing forgiveness, I think can have an unhealthy impact on kids too. If you're saying, your brother said sorry, okay, tell him you forgive him, but the child's not ready to forgive. What are we teaching in terms of overriding that feeling of, man, someone did something wrong to me and I just have to be nice to them or just have to forgive them? And this is where the teacher was really struggling because the traditional say sorry, say I forgive you model just feels like it's lacking something for her. And that's the bigger conversation we wanted to have.
Is there actually a fundamental problem with, forced apologies and forced forgiveness? Does it depend on the age? Does it depend on the developmental stage they're at? Is there actually a fundamental issue with forcing both an apology and forgiveness?
Before I answer, what do you think?
Well, I'm the one who did the research on it.
Right, okay. So let me tell you what I think. I think our children want to be in good relationship with others. I think children, if you look at just who they are as people before we kind of come in and start shaping them with, do this, do that, I think they're genuinely caring and they genuinely want to be good people, right? I think kids have impulses that get the best of them. Where I see forcing apologies being an issue sometimes is when we're now labeling, let's say, an impulsive behavior that a child does, like our toddler, I can just picture her being overtired, being a little bit grumpy, and all of a sudden she hits her sister because her sister has her toy. And we come in and she's already melting down and having a hard time. We're like, that was wrong. That was bad. You have to say sorry. And her brain's just not there. Her brain just literally, it's not accessing the words that we're saying, just from the developmental perspective. And I think a lot of parents then will be like, you have to say sorry. And they'll really dig into that. And then the child who's done the hurting, now A, they've just hurt someone, which they don't actually want to do. B, their brain is totally flooded with emotion and it can't think logically. And now I'm being yelled at to say sorry and I freeze up. I won't do it. And then often now they get punished, right? So I feel like sometimes our expectation is too much. And then also for our little kids, like, what does sorry really mean to them? I have seen it a million times where parents, even at the park, right, say sorry. And the kid goes, yep, sorry. And it's like as if now everything's resolved and better because I've said a single word.
It's a magic word.
It's a magic word. And I mean, how many adults do the same thing? Oh, sorry. Like, but they don't actually mean what they're saying. So to me, what I'd rather teach my kids is like the truest apology is changed behavior, right? And not hurting this person next time. And yes, I do think the word sorry has meaning and value, and we can kind of talk about how to go about coaching your child to see the need to apologize. But also, I think if all we ever do is just demand that word be said, then the apology kind of falls flat. And then I think the exact same thing on the other side, right? So if we demand our kids to forgive every single time someone's hurt them, it's the same thing. It's like, what does forgiveness really mean then, right? And what is the child doing with those feelings that come up with, I've just been really hurt by someone who I love and care about, or by someone I don't know at the park, and I'm just supposed to be fine and just move on, overriding their own feeling of that didn't feel right. So
you can teach a child that it's okay if other people run over you as long as they say sorry.
Right, exactly. And how many of us adults struggle with that, right? And we allow people to walk over us and then just say sorry, and then we feel guilty when we're not ready to forgive them yet.
Right. Do you think there is a place for telling your child, like a toddler, okay, this is something that you should apologize for because it hurt your sister, or you made them really sad because you stole a toy from them that they were just playing with? Like, is it wrong to do that?
No. I think what you just said, the second thing that you said, is better. Like, basically narrating out what happened. Right? So what I don't love is when a parent's just like from the other side of the room, say sorry to your brother, it's like, okay, sorry. And then we move on, right? But if you're really coming in, like I like to get on the kid's level and be like, do you notice how your sister is crying right now? You just hit her with your toy and now she's crying. Hitting someone with a toy really hurts her. One thing you could do right now is say sorry. Like, you didn't want to hurt your sister and you're going to try not to do that again. It's just a little more coaching that's involved in it.
Yeah, okay.
And I do think it's important to teach children how to make amends with each other, right?
Yeah, because I would say that is still pro-social behavior.
Yeah.
You're still teaching them how to relate well with others by, even if they don't necessarily understand it at those early ages, and you're kind of forcing it on them a little bit or prompting them to, hey, this is a good opportunity for you to say sorry. Yeah, I feel like one could argue that there's a benefit in explaining that to them and trying to get them to apologize.
I do agree. I think that's where we're coaching our kids on how to behave socially, right? And it should come with the explanation as to why that's a behavior that you would seek an apology for, right? Like, why did that hurt someone? Or why should I even feel sorry about this, right?
Yeah.
You can almost see it on the flip side with like adults who apologize for everything. Like, you wonder if as a kid they're just constantly like, say sorry, told to say sorry all the time without actually reflecting on like, well, why was that even wrong? And so then they just think their whole existence is basically wrong and anything they do is wrong without like reflecting on like, is this actually something I have to say sorry for?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of Canadians are always like saying sorry about everything. But, on a deeper level, we all know these people that are just apologize constantly, right? And then on the flip side, you have people who seem to show no remorse and never apologize for anything, or people who think they can just do bad things and then just say sorry for them. So what we really want to do is coach on like, why was this wrong? How did this behavior impact someone else? Okay, and then when we do something that hurts someone else, the kind thing that we want to say is sorry. And sorry is more than just a word. It's next time, we're not going to try and hit her. Like, maybe you'll try and talk it out, right? So it's the coaching.
Okay. Now I have the voice of a relative of mine who will say sometimes, like, you just need your child to do something in the moment and just get it done. Or they need to know that what they did was wrong and you have to tell them that, and then in this situation force an apology. Mm-hmm. Why is that not the right approach? Especially for younger kids.
I mean, to me, it's just kind of meaningless. Force them to say...
Yeah, but why? Again, you saying it's meaningless is also meaningless. We have to understand why it's meaningless then.
Like if they're just saying a word, sorry, and they don't actually know what that means, and they're just basically saying it to get their parent off their case, right? Not because they actually feel bad, not because they understand the impact of their actions, but just so that my mom stops telling me that I have to say sorry right now. They are more so doing it because they don't want their parent on their case and they just want to keep their parent happy than actually feeling sorry and understanding what the word means. And to me, what's more meaningful is teaching a child actually what the word sorry means and understanding that most kids do want to be in a good relationship with other people, and given the opportunity, they do want to make it right.
Yeah.
So to me, it's more about how can we make this right versus how do I just get you to say a magical word and then we all move on with our day, and then an hour later you do the exact same thing because you don't really know why I forced you to say sorry.
Okay. What does that look like in real family life though? Like if we had to stop every time our 3-year-old stole a toy from one of her older siblings or hit one of them or whatever, like that's the age she's at. Mm-hmm. So you're saying teach them what the word sorry means. I'm assuming you mean teach them to feel empathy.
Yeah.
How do you actually do that?
Okay.
Is that way too early of an age to even be teaching them that realistically? Or what does that actually look like when you're so busy you have to make dinner, you have to get the kids ready for other things?
Yeah, I think it can look two ways. So first, I do think you can teach a 3-year-old empathy. Actually, I don't think it's like a crazy thing you have to teach. I think they already have it. It's just helping facilitate that. But for example, when she takes a toy from her sister, right? And I know her sister had the toy first. So a way I can just teach pro-social behavior in that moment is give the toy back to her sister first off, right? And then second, even if she's melting down, I can just quickly say like, hey, look, our rule is whoever had the toy first, they get the toy right now. Look at your sister's face when you steal a toy from her. Look how she's crying and she's upset. That's what happens when we take a toy from someone.
Yeah, but the reality is that 3-year-old will also be crying because you just gave the toy back.
Yeah.
So then you're teaching her literally when she's not teachable then, right?
Yeah.
So is that realistic? And a realistic example then, what you're saying?
Well, like I would still say it even if she's not fully teachable. It just gets me in the practice of saying that. But I wouldn't like go into like a long explanation. And at that point in time, I wouldn't force her to be like, I'm sorry, right? Like, so for a 3-year-old in that example, basically it's my boundary and my ability to stand up for her sister and show empathy. Basically it's like what we've talked about before, what I want her to do, right? Give the toy back and show empathy for her sister. That's the apology. Like I'm acting as the logical brain in that moment. As she gets older, or even when she's calm, you can have more of these conversations about like when you take a toy, it makes your sister sad. You remember how she was crying earlier? That's because we took her toy. That's why we don't take toys, right? You can do that in a calm moment. But yeah, like you said, not everything has to be said and done in that exact moment when your child's melting down, especially for the younger kids. You're the model. So they're looking to you to figure out how to be empathetic and how to have pro-social behavior.
Yeah. Well, and based on the research, and we've talked about this in previous episodes too, the ability to genuinely understand another person's perspectives and feelings, you start seeing it until a child is 4 to 5. Yeah. So that's why I keep pressing you on, is it realistic to do that at age 3? Like you can tell them, but really at age 3, a child is egocentric. They only care about themselves. They are mimicking what we're doing, but they're not really internalizing it. I don't think, at least.
I think they could start to notice the patterns of your behavior. They start to like see how you treat others, right? So like it's that modeling, and you can start the coaching. That doesn't mean it's sinking in, right? But I still like to start doing it around that age. And then once they reach the 4 to 5 age, you do start to see those shifts, right? Where now all that work that you've been doing, they're starting to act like you and take it on and be empathetic and understand when to apologize. But it's that foundation that you're starting to build and just practice in the 3-year-old stage.
Right. I mean, yeah, again, I think there is definitely a benefit for them understanding like a social norm that, hey, when I've done something wrong, we have to stop and reflect on it and act on it in a certain way.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, yes, our 3-year-old hasn't hit that like 4 to 7, like kind of that shift yet, but she will say sorry now, right? Like she said sorry to me the other night because she broke her drawer, which was a whole thing, but she ripped like the top of her drawer off and she came all the way downstairs, found me in the kitchen, tugged on my dress. Mommy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I broke a drawer. I was like, what do you mean you broke the drawer? I stepped on it. Like she knows she's not supposed to do that, but she got me and she apologized and she genuinely felt bad for what she did. and that's at 3, right? So I do think modeling it and coaching them through it at an early age can have a positive impact. It's not to just like say, let's just wait till they're 4.
Yeah, right. And that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if it's realistic for a parent to a 2 to 3-year-old, like a toddler, to guide them through that process and try and get them to go through the process of, okay, what can we do? Is it more like I have to guide them? I have to say, okay, let's try this or this.
Yeah, because they're not going to have the answer at 2 years old to be like, I should give the toy back to me. Like, that's not going to happen. Whereas at 5, they can probably come up with that answer themselves. Friends, we have exciting news. The anger course is now available. This course was created for parents of kids who would be labeled as angry, strong-willed, sensitive, or explosive. It's meant for kids ages 3 to 9 years old. Inside the course, you're going to find 35 video lessons, all between 1 and 4 minutes long, really easy to digest, covering everything from your triggers, how you view anger, of course, your childhood experiences, to what anger is and why it presents the way it does, and how even sensitivity plays into it. And then you'll finish it off with some scenarios and really practical tools. The whole thing's only an hour and a half long because we know you're busy. We can't wait to support you. Head to the link in the show notes to grab the anger course right now.
There was another thing I found in the research that, so forced apologies, so saying like, you need to say sorry right now, it's universally seen as mostly negative. It's not seen as a positive thing to do it that way. But what is positive is to coach them through and say, you see how your sister is crying right now? How do you think it feels for them to have their tower destroyed? Mm-hmm. Do you think we can show that we're sorry by helping her build a new tower or whatever? Like, it's more coaching. Again, that's easier to do for the older, let's say preschool, school-age children. Before that, that's where you can't coerce them into saying sorry, but you can kind of guide them into understanding that this is a part of actually being sorry, saying the words, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the prompt can be a bit more direct, I think, with the younger kids, right? Whereas older kids, and what I wanted to mention too is like the older they get, there might be different ways they say I'm sorry without saying the exact words, I'm sorry, right? Like I remember.
Don't you think the words I'm sorry though, if used meaningfully and paired with an action of some kind to show that you're sorry, are still quite powerful?
Yes, absolutely. Like, I'm not saying that the words I'm sorry are not powerful. I think sometimes they're the most powerful thing that we can hear, right? People really value hearing the words I'm sorry, even our kids, when we apologize to them.
Yeah.
But I remember I'm just thinking of a time with our 5-year-old recently, and she did something she wasn't supposed to do to like one of her sisters. I can't remember. And I said to her, like, hey, do you want to say sorry? And she said she wasn't ready to say sorry. And I'm like, okay, I know when you're ready, you'll come and say sorry. And I usually try not to force it, but I let them know that I expect that when they're ready, they'll come say sorry. And when she was ready, she didn't say the words, I'm sorry, but she had drawn a picture with a big heart on it. And she gave it to her sister, right? And her sister understood, like her older sister understood that meant she felt bad about what she did, right? And they gave a hug and it was fine. So that's what I'm saying is sometimes the exact words might not be said for your kids, but understand the cues, right? Or like they just hand back the toy, or they give their sibling their favorite stuffy to snuggle. Like there's many ways that we see I'm sorry playing out that sometimes we miss as parents.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So the 2 things that I've found in the research that seem to have the biggest impact on actually generating that feeling, true feeling of empathy, are number 1 is actually action-oriented empathy. So like when someone's sorry, if you've broken your sibling's tower, you can help them rebuild it. And the act of actually rebuilding it helps them to feel that sense of empathy. Like, oh, I can see why my sibling is so upset about this because they spent all this time building it. And now I'm seeing that and I'm helping them build it.
I love that. Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest impacts. And the other one is seeing their parents model that, whether it's to each other's parents or from the parent to the child.
I think that's beautiful. And I think a lot of parents struggle with this because they never heard the words I'm sorry when they were kids, right? Like, I think an old school mindset is like, you don't apologize to your kids, you're the parent, they have to just respect whatever you say. And so then parents either struggle to know like how to model that to their kids, or they over apologize to their kids, or like that can be a hard thing to know how to model to your kids.
So what is an example of that? That like a true apology from, let's say, me to one of our daughters.
Right. So let's say we were trying to get out the door to go to school and you got super frustrated with all of them because they just are taking a million years to get their shoes on, and you kind of yell a little bit and tell them to all get in the van, right? You drive in the van. Okay. You've all cooled down and now you're starting to feel guilty because you're like, oh man, probably shouldn't have yelled at them. And you're like, hey girls, just before you go to school, I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry for this morning. I was feeling rushed. I was late to work. And because of all of those things, I ended up yelling at you guys. That was my own stuff. And next time, maybe we'll try and get ready a little bit earlier, or I'll try and have things set up a little bit better. But I am sorry for yelling at you. I shouldn't have yelled at you this morning. Just once. Right? And I think if you say it genuinely just once, you have their attention, you have their connection, that's enough. And then the next time you try and do it different, right? And that's where I was saying at the very beginning, the changed behavior is like the truest apology, which we can do because we have logical brains and we try our best. Our toddlers can't necessarily not hit their sister next time, right? But eventually they also learn that when they say sorry, to really mean it, you also have to change what you're doing. And I think this is where I was saying sometimes parents struggle where their own guilt will make them feel so bad that they just apologize over. Like, I could be like this, right? Like, I apologize in the van and then I apologize after school. I was feeling so bad all day for yelling at you. And then I apologize again at night. Do you know
parents like that?
Yes. It's actually something I hear about a lot, that the parents who follow us, they can feel so much guilt sometimes. And then the guilt feels crippling because of whatever they did, that they just keep apologizing over and over and over. But what that actually does is one time it's healing, 2 times okay. But if your child is constantly hearing you apologize, then they're starting to feel a little bit unsure too, right?
Yeah, right. I guess they can't trust that you are a good leader for them if you constantly feel like you have to apologize
for the same thing over and over and over and over, right?
Consistently.
Yeah, I had a follower ask me very recently, like, how many times is too many times to apologize for the yelling I did a couple nights ago? And I said, if you did it once and it was very genuine and you're working on changing your behavior, once is enough.
So do you think a part of the apology, though, then should be, I'm sorry that I did this. I realized that it might have scared you or something like that. Mm-hmm. The next time I'm feeling this way, I'm going to try and do this.
I think as an adult, that's the most ideal way to apologize.
Yeah, because I feel like if you just try and change without saying, this is how I want to change and this is how I plan to do it next time, I feel like your kids will not know what to expect.
Exactly, right? Like, what are you going to do next time? I don't know, right? But then let's say you do say, tomorrow morning when we're getting ready for school, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wake up a little early, make your lunches so that we're not trying to do it all at the same time as getting you out the door. And then the next morning you do that. And it shows your kids that you're serious, right? And it models to them that when they are serious about apologizing or doing something different, you actually have to make steps to make that change.
Yeah.
I think it's a missed piece, right? Because even with a lot of parents, like just saying sorry, people hear sorry all the time, right? But I think it can quickly lose its meaning if it's not paired with a changed behavior.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see that with adults too, right? If someone says sorry, but then does the exact same thing over and over again without actually making any meaningful change to try and not do that anymore, it's hard to believe that it's true. And kids will see that.
Kids are smart. And I feel like my trust has almost gone even more. Like if you say you're sorry and you say you're not going to do this anymore, but you keep doing it, okay, well, that is another breach of trust, right? Yeah. So yeah, it has to be more than just a word. And I think, that really comes from our modeling.
Yes, modeling. And then, like I said, again, the action-oriented, basically what your teacher friend said about the restorative circle. Mm-hmm. It's more than just a child saying, I'm sorry in that situation, I forgive you, whatever. It's about, okay, what can you do to rectify the situation? How can we make this better now?
Yeah.
What do you think are some ideas for a way that we can rebuild trust and move past this?
Yeah, I do that. And I know you do that with our girls too. I remember one time one of them broke one of their like a drawing or a puppet or something. And then the resolution was like, I'll try and help you make another one, right? And it's simple, but like you said, then they go through the process of making the thing that they broke or cleaning up the mess that they made in the other person's room or whatever it is. And it does help them feel the weight of what they did, right? Which also makes you less likely to want to do that again in the future. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, so going back to that age group, 4 to 5. So we were talking about junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten here in Ontario, Canada, is 4 to 5 years old. The concept of that restorative circle is truly based on what is effective. Again, how can we make sure that, I don't know what the right term is, the transgressor, the one that actually did whatever that hurt the other child, whether it's their feelings or physically, how can we actually help them develop more empathy? And on the other side, on the reverse side, how can we make sure that the other child feels like they don't have to just accept an apology just because someone said they're sorry, and for them to, I don't know, be strong enough to say thank you for that apology? Or
that's what my teacher friend and I were talking about this morning, actually. She said that she started to coach the kids who needed to forgive. And typically she'd be like, okay, and now say, I forgive you, something like that.
That's what she would do.
Yeah, she used to do. And then she started feeling really uncomfortable with that because she was looking at her own life. And she's like, if my friend hit me or hurt me or whatever it is, right? And they said sorry, I wouldn't necessarily be ready to forgive them right away.
Yeah.
And why am I forcing the kids in my class to just immediately be like, I forgive you and move on? And she's like, a lot of them actually feel really betrayed by the way that their friend treated them, right? And she's like, and I want to teach them actually to tune in with that feeling and to know that that wasn't okay, and that when they're ready to forgive their friend, that's fine, but they don't have to do it 5 minutes after they just got hit in the face. And I said to her, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. And I think we don't talk about that enough, right? We kind of end the conversation with saying sorry. We don't talk about the forgiveness piece. And so she said what she started to do is just coaching them to say, I hear your apology, or thank you for the apology, instead of I forgive you. And she's like, it's a simple shift, but I've actually noticed the kids in my class being a little bit more calm after these circles because they didn't have to force themselves to just get over the thing that just happened. I think in our home, we've been really good about that. I don't think we ever force our kids to forgive. We kind of do the apology. If the other person wants to repair, they can, but we also let them stay angry. If they want to be angry for a bit, I think that's okay. I know especially our older daughter sometimes has been angry for an hour or two after with her siblings, right? She just doesn't want to play with them. She wants to do her own thing. And I don't actually have a problem with that. I'm okay with her tuning in with this feeling of injustice or betrayal and being like, I want to sit with that for a little while. So I like the idea of thank you for your apology. And I like the idea of teaching kids some time to pause and reflect on how they're actually feeling, especially as we get into those older ages. But I was curious, I just wanted to have that discussion with you because I feel like that's not something we've ever intentionally spoken about before. And I think forgiveness is such a huge topic and something that we oversimplify a lot. But we could have a whole episode on forgiveness as an adult and the hurts that you get. But it's not so simple as to just say, I forgive you, right? And I want our kids to tune in with those feelings when someone has hurt them or betrayed them and realize that they don't have to just get over it.
Do you not think there's a bit of a middle ground on that, though? Whether it's forgiving or, if we're going into the more complex, adulthood, and being hurt as an adult is very different. But
even let's talk about our 8-year-old with a friendship struggle, right? If a friend is mean to her or says something bad to her, and then the next day they're like, I'm sorry, but she's still hurt by the words that were said 2 days ago. I want her to have some sort of framework to know that, okay, I can pause and I can take her apology, but I don't have to tell her immediately, I forgive you, and just start playing with her again. Right? Even at those early ages, I do want her to have some room to pause. But I see what you're saying in terms of our toddler and our preschooler fighting over a toy. We don't need them mad at each other for an hour over an impulse control issue.
Yeah.
But I also don't think they would be. They are also prone to just move forward, right?
And I feel like children do think more concretely. They're not thinking of all the complexities. Like we said, it's not really until ages 4 to 5 where they're starting to understand that others think differently from them and have different perspectives. So, you can't really teach that until their brain has unlocked the ability to start thinking about that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I guess it depends on how you would define someone forgives another, right? If forgiveness is just getting over it and acting like nothing happened, okay, sure. Then you don't necessarily want that outcome right away. But if you think forgiveness is more, understanding, again, using the whole theory of mind where someone else has a different perspective. They did something, they realize they're wrong. I can appreciate that they understand that. I'm going to make sure that I keep my guards up a little bit just because they've done something wrong and they've said they're going to change. So we'll see. That doesn't mean all of a sudden you write them off fully, but it could potentially based on how extreme it was, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say that's more of like an adult definition, I guess, of forgiveness, right? Where it's like...
Yeah, we're teaching the beginning stages of that in the, let's say, this restorative circle idea in kindergarten.
Yeah, and I feel like, let's say, what does forgiveness look like in kindergarten? It probably looks like, I'm willing to play with you again, and I want to hang out with you, and I don't think you're a bad kid, right?
Yeah, right.
It could mean, I still don't really want to play with you, but I'm not going to lash out at you and get super angry at you all the time. I feel like even our JK...
Or be mean to...
Yeah, even our JKer has like certain people maybe she doesn't want to hang out with so much because they hurt her at some point or another, and like she's not forgetting it, but she's fine with them. It's just she just knows like maybe I don't play with them as much.
Yeah.
So I think that can be what forgiveness looks like then. But then I do think it gets a little more complicated when you get into those like preteen, tween years, like the 9 to 13 or whatever, where our daughter's entering into, where maybe forgiveness has meant, oh, I'll still play with you. And like we can just move on because our brains kind of just move on to the next thing. Maybe that looks a little different where she can start to understand, wow, this person comes from a different house than me and they have different rules and or ways of talking to each other. And I can understand and appreciate that. And I don't want to keep hanging out with her because she's mean. Like I think they can start to get that complex feeling around that age. And then for us, it's even more complicated. It's all the things that you just said, right? I can forgive you and maybe not have you back in my life. Like you can get as complex as that with forgiveness, but those aren't discussions that I think a lot of people are having, right? I think for a lot of people, forgiveness just means moving on, moving forward, forgetting, but I don't think forgiveness has to mean forgetting. And I think that's where my teacher friend was trying to come from, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to coach my kids just to say, I forgive you, equaling, I'm going to go play with you again when they're not ready to do that. And I wonder too about coaching kids with like the feeling inside their own body of like, what did it feel like when you got hit by your friend? You know, that's the kind of thing I would do as a mom. And I think that would be important too.
Okay. Well, I think this was a good discussion. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to this that you think will tie it all together nice in a nice bundle?
No, I think this is a really good place to end. I think what parents can take away from this is instead of just kind of doing the route like force an apology, force a forgiveness, let's move on. Maybe it will help parents just take a little bit of a pause and more of a coaching aspect to these struggles, knowing that the foundations that we're setting in, let's say those preschool, early school age, will help them with their relationships, but also with their sense of confidence and like trust in themselves as they get older. And we sometimes forget like these little moments, right? They happen a million times a day where your kids are fighting over something and someone hurts someone else. We forget that they can be really powerful, teachable opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. I do have a final question for the listener.
I love that you're doing that. Yeah.
I figured you would like that.
I do. It's beautiful.
Started it last episode. We'll see if I continue. I don't know.
I like it.
Okay, so this is for you, the listener. As you go about your week, the next time a conflict arises between your children, or your child and someone else, I just want to invite you to pause and ask yourself, is my goal right now to get my child just to apologize, or is it to guide a genuine repair and build that empathy within them?
What a good question.
Thanks.
I love it. I'm going to sit with that question. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we do that too sometimes, you know. Say sorry, come on. We just want to rush through it, move on. But
I know.
I'm going to sit with that question too. Yeah, I like it.
I'm glad.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully you can take something away from this episode and reflect on the question that Scott just said. And can't wait to get your thoughts and feedback. And we'll hear from you again next week. Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We are glad that you are here. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it interesting, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a rating and a review. Scott and I actually sit down together and read them all. A 5-star rating helps us share our podcast and get these important messages out there. Thank you so much for listening, and we can't wait to talk to you again next time.